Hi, everyone. This is a brief overview of Chapter 8, which I find to be a really interesting chapter, and I hope that you do as well. This chapter is focused on juvenile justice, the juvenile justice system in the United States. And I think it's really interesting to read about the history and the philosophy of juvenile justice in the United States. It's really important for us to recognize that how we think of juveniles who have broken laws has really changed a lot, really, over the last 50 years, 50, 55 years. And that's really because of many major U.S. Supreme Court cases that, as each of them was decided, slowly we began to see that the court was saying that the due process rights that are available to adults as they move through the criminal justice system are also available constitutionally, must be provided to juveniles as well, even though it is a separate justice system. In particular, one thing that has not yet been a due process right that has been extended to juveniles is the idea of a jury trial, if the juvenile so chooses. And there are people who argue that this is a right that also should constitutionally be required, that at least juveniles should have the right to seek a trial by jury as opposed to the juvenile judge listening to the case. And so, give some thought to that as you move through the chapter. What do you think about that idea? Whether juveniles should have the right to choose a jury trial versus the reason why we don't allow juveniles to have a jury trial, and that's because, at least in theory, we believe in restorative justice, particularly in regard to juveniles. And if their identity is anonymous, then presumably they have more of an incentive to change. However, if everyone in the community knows that a particular juvenile did X, Y, or Z, then that label might carry on into adulthood. And so, again, I think you'll find this chapter really quite interesting. And of course, there's a really good discussion about restorative justice. And again, as you read about restorative justice in the juvenile system, you may want to ask yourself, how fully, how much does the American population really truly believe in restorative justice for juveniles? So that's it. And I know, really brief overview. I hope that you enjoy this chapter, and I'll see you next week for the overview of the next chapter.